G'day guys, still doing more experiments with these GPZ-7000s. Yeah, a Z and a Z, ZZ. I wonder if it's a good nickname for it. We'll just call it a ZZ. Yeah, anyway, I've been out and done some more tests. I went up to Sparrow Ground. It started raining, so I would have had about a 2-minute video, so I didn't bother putting that up, and had to get out of there before the camera and all the equipment got wet. But anyway, I had a quick test and I noticed there was a little bit of interaction with ground that I didn't like, so I've come back and, you know, like a yo-yo, out back, and there was a couple of interesting things I've discovered with this detector that in a way, if you try and do anything to it, it's actually set up like a bit of a trap that you can't. But after a lot of analytics, I've worked it out, and my God, I tell you what, I've got the noise out of it, and it was outperforming the standard one by a long shot. But anyone who wants to pull one of these apart, there's a few things I should point out. That these are important, else you're going to end up with a buggered detector. First of all, I might as well grab him and put him in front of the camera. That might be looking like the dark cave of Kolkata or something at the moment. So I'll put on another light. Bear with me. I'll just tiptoe. I've got bloody detectors everywhere here. Oh, dear me. Jesus. There you go. Okay, I put on another light. I'm not going to go and do the complete explanation of rebuilding or putting it back together, but there's some important things here with this part. Still the black hole of Kolkata, isn't it? But anyway, yeah, when you put the cores back in here in this little holder, I've added some hot melt glue. There's got some little cutouts there. You can actually put hot melt glue in, holds it very nice and tight. You don't want any wires wiggling or anything like that. But I can tell you something that I found when you put it back together. If you didn't notice when you pull it apart, and I'll need something to point. Hang on a second. Oh, here we go. I'll use my scribing tool. Okay, this black wire, I don't even know if you can, probably still can't see it. Gee. Hang on a second. Probably get this light here, and hang on, need 10 hands. Bear with me again. I had get around there. Dear me, I don't even know where that goes. It's caught up behind the oscilloscope, but I can probably put this light here. Turn the soldering iron off just in case, but we'll put some light here. Maybe this will help. Actually, what I'll do, I'll get this is just pointed out so you don't blow up these detectors. Anyone who wants to pull them apart. Okay. Still damn dark, isn't it? Might be around that way. That's probably okay. I think you can probably see that. I'll grab my pokey thing. It is important that the wires come off the cores when you remount the cores in the plastic, that they go this way and these tuck under. You could probably turn it around more and get the wires closer in here, but it doesn't really matter. You've got to be careful here, because where the mylar strip goes into this connector, if the wires are in this position here, like you just put this around and left the wires here, what will happen is that when the mylar strip goes in and you put the back part of the detector on, it will crush the mylar strip into the wires if they were all around the middle area here. You can see this quite easily with the way it goes back together. If I do that, it'll probably make a bit of sense that if that mylar was in there and you put it back together, the top part of the mylar there would get crushed into the wiring, and it's such a tight fit, it would probably destroy that mylar strip, well, connector. Copper mylar connector. If you have a look at these, and I always treat these very gently, it's got copper tabs there, little fingers, and it's all on the mylar. And these little, you can see the lines, they're all the tracks. And the clear bits is just mylar, so it's insulated. But have a good look at it. It's an intricate little thing, and you don't want to put a lot of pressure on it because it will break. So that's all I wanted to really point out with these. When you put it back together, be careful. And the other thing I should point out too, this black wire, I don't know if you can see in there too well, even I can't see. I'm trying to get light and maybe round that way, but then I can't see what I'm doing. I can't win, can I? There's a black wire here. Yeah, there you go. I've got to look at what I'm doing and look at the camera to see that I'm on the right spot. The wire comes out of the core here. It's actually the receiver part of it. It's off the receive windings in the coil. Comes out of the core and goes around here. It has to go behind the first capacitor. It has to go around that big electrolytic capacitor, and then it's got little snap-in guides. You'll probably see it if you pull them apart. They're way down there on the board, and the wire snaps into those guides. It has to go where it's designed to go. You can't just let it float around and put it over this way or that way, because what's going to happen if you run it near that noisy switch mode power supply, it's going to induce noise into the receive cable. And the quietest part, or quietest place to put it, I've actually probed it around with a little noise probe on the oscilloscope, and the quietest place is actually where Minelab have designed it to go. So get it down very close to the PCB on the circuit board, because that's a low impedance there, and you're not going to have anything anything generated really on a low impedance. Is going to help keep it out of that cable. And if it's sitting up in the air inside the detector, like if it just went up here and then to the receive module, it would act as an antenna in there, and any radiation will just latch onto it. It'll be intercepted by that cable and could cause noise. Actually, I think it does cause noise, because when I laid it down in this configuration, it was quieter. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Now, I've done this detector with a new board layout and new devices, and yeah, like I say, there was a few things in here that I have discovered. So at the moment, I'm not going to broadcast what it is, because we could call that commercially sensitive. But I'll show you when I go out. I'm going to do another video, and you will see. The other thing, another thing too. God, when you muck around with these things, it starts conjuring up all sorts of things that you discovered. So I better, what I've got here, I've just got some silicone spray, right? And when you pull this apart, when you want to put your coils in, coils out, and all the rest of it, or you want to disassemble the whole thing, which I've done, there's a really hard rub part here. And sometimes the detector, when you trying to pull it apart, it jams up hard. And then you've got to really snap it and give it a good hard push to make it move, because that's a friction point there. And what I've done, I did it on the other one actually, and I'll do it on this one too. And I did it on my one I had and I sold. But just put a bit of silicone spray there, get a cotton bud, and rub it up that channel, like so. Don't leave residue there or anything like that. What else is there? You know, even you look at this bit of plastic here that you know, you bend down to pull it out and stuff like that. You know, I'm just having a good look at that for a second. I think it's got a screw that holds that in. I don't think this is molded. This clip assembly is molded into the case, because I think that if you bend this a lot of times, it'll break, it'll snap, because you just you know, doing that to the plastic. I mean, plastic's not made for that. So maybe give that a bit of a little bit of a dry silicone, whatever's left on that, and in those grippers there, just so things move a little bit easier, and you know, it just takes the pressure off. I could, yeah, I've got to put all the cables back in, everything. So yeah, that's where we're up to with this. Don't forget to put those nuts on here. Where's the other one? Because I've misplaced it, haven't I? There's a battery. I had that nut in my hand, and I just thought about there it is. I'm just showing you how just to be careful with that wiring. Just keep those wires away from the mylar. Don't let those ferrites twist around and bunch up the wires in here. It'll cause drama. So yeah, you make sure those are in, and spin the nuts on. Those, I don't know if it's meant to be or not meant to be, but these nuts don't have washers. There's no lock washers or anything like that on these two nuts. So, you know, get them finger tight, then nip them up. Oh, the other thing too, I'll show you in a sec. They're fine thread, so it takes a few turns to get them on, but they lock up nicely anyway. I don't think that's going to fall off. You know, it's pretty hefty. The other thing too, when you put the board back in, sometimes people dip the board down, and it's actually two little get in front of there. On the other side of my finger here, on the other side of the plastic, there's two little grooves, and the board has to go into those grooves. And to make sure you've done it, there's a couple of guide rails just under the board. You won't be able to see it, it's too dark in there. But the board, you put the board in towards the top, right? And then angle it down, and then drop it to the guide rails, and then push it in. Now, what I usually do before I take the board out, because if you haven't got it in, it's going to crush up everything when you put it back together. So what I do, and I've done on this one, the white connector here, I actually look along this bit of plastic here, and I just get a pen and I mark on that white connector, so it's level with the case, the edge of the case here, and when that goes in, clip as such, and it'll still wiggle around at the back part, but you can't twist it sideways because it's locked in the little board holder at the front. But just mark it so when you put it back together that you know the board goes in all the way. You know, it can trick you that if you didn't line it up on those two guides, it could be sitting on those guides at the front and pushing out a little distance, and when you put it back together, you know, you could have issues crushing the mylar again or something like that. But yeah, that's it. The other thing too, it has a waterproof seal, a little gasket. It runs in a groove around here. Make sure it doesn't fall out and you lose that, because your detector won't be, you know, really. Do they call these waterproof? I don't know. I suppose if it's got seals and things, but yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't go for it in a river, but maybe you can. I don't know. Read the instruction book. I don't know. I've never read the instruction book for this. But yeah, make sure the wires don't get caught in the groove. Make sure you push them in like so. So nothing's going to catch. And that's how it goes back together. It has to be like that. And you can probably get an idea looking in there, the distance that it sits towards the top more than, you know, because you look at it and you look at the bottom there and you'd say, oh, there's all that room down there. No, don't stick the board in that bottom part. You'll crush up part of the detector and do damage. So putting it back together is critical. Just the best way to do it is just make sure you cannot twist it like so. It'll move a little bit, but you can feel that the end of the board is in those slots. And if I look down there, you can just, no, you won't be able to see it with the camera, but you can just make out the bottom part of a slot down there. And the boards are sitting in that. So you need a light shining down to see. You won't, I don't know if you can see. I'll try and do that on the end of the board, but I can't see it on the camera, so I don't think anyone else will be able to either. So that is how it goes back together. The other part is, we'll put it down here. Don't put it back together with the battery in. Take the battery out and sit it like so on the bench. You could put something under here to hold it up. Like, that's probably too gigantic. What about this? No, it's too much angle. But if you sit it up, it won't roll back like that. It makes it easier to put the mylar strip back in. Remember, pull the tabs up. These tabs, pull them up. Make sure there's no residues of hot melt glue, any sort of fluff around the mylar or in the connector. And this is going to be terribly difficult to do on this angle. Hang on a sec. And I could feel hot melt glue there. Hot melt glue gun's on for some reason. I just disconnected that. But yeah, this goes very carefully in the hole, in the slot, should I say, and then push the tabs down. I don't know which is a good angle to show that, probably that maybe. But that's in there, don't put any pressure. Now this should, by all means, go back in with no resistance, well, a little bit of resistance maybe, but nothing like you got to push it and really, you know, see if anything's caught or anything. I don't want the sticker to go in, I was protecting that. Okay. I'm pushing the sticker into the slot. So yeah, because I did this with White Spirit and didn't wreck the sticker. It's still okay. You can see it. It's still okay. Pretty robust, but if you yank it when it's glued, it'll pull it to pieces. So like so. and for some reason it doesn't want to go in. It's actually got a gap there, so something's not right. Very gingerly pull that out and we'll see what's going on. Trying to see if the board is on those bottom rails. After all that, I don't think the board is in 100%. So I've taken that out, pull the tabs, take that out. It's like working in the dark hole down there. It's on the right, it's resting in the right spot, but there's something not quite right. So I was saying about these, you've got to make sure that everything is 100% before you put it back together. Definitely in those tabs because it's not twisting. I don't know what is causing that. It's very strange. There, goes there. That won't hit there. Just move it out of the way like so. Milo goes there. Milo in the middle. No wires. No crushing of the mylar. Now we're gonna try and work out what's going on here. This is a bit strange. So, like I was saying, you think it's easy, it's not. Okay, I'll put the mylar back in. Wiggle him down. Tab lock it. Make sure it's okay. There's no other guides, is there? No. It's not that much of a pressure fit. It does snap into place. Just make sure that if you're pulling it in, don't have the tabs in there like that and push on them. You'll snap the hinges off. So in that regard, yeah, it goes in the bottom. Now there you go. It's going. I think it was just a tight fit, maybe. Okay, you have a look around. It's got probably a little bit of a gap there, a couple of thou of an inch or, half a millimetre or something. And that's because this black bit is sitting on that neoprene type rubber seal in there, just giving it a bit of springiness for a good seal. So I've put a couple of screws in this. I use this gadget. Make sure that if you're going to use any electric tool on these things, make sure you have a ratchet. So, it's not going to, strip the screws out. Always use a ratchet. And also make sure you go in the right direction. But I'm trying to do so you can see it. Probably can't, but just for starters, put a couple of screws in there. Just diagonal from each other. And just double check that in the diagonal mode there, it's all nice and close within reason. It's still got that spring. Yeah, that pushes in easy. But with these detectors, anything spring loaded and made of plastic, when you put it together, do it like you're doing up. Well, people won't know this. A lot of people won't know this, but pretend you're doing up head bolts on a car engine or something, where you go diagonal and then you go the other diagonal, and then you start in the middle of that diagonal, and that one, and that one, and that one. Like, you make crisscrosses. You don't just go bang, 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 bang all here, because what's going to happen is when this is pulled down tight on this side, when you tighten these, it's going to pull down tight. And if there's anything that is causing stress, you can crack the plastic. Not straight away, but over time, if it sits there, getting pulled down, and you've caught a wire and haven't noticed it, or whatever, it could cause an issue. But on that, I would be just a light ratchet setting on this, so you know damn well that it's all going in nicely. Nothing pinching, nothing biting. And I'll tell you, Murphy's Law on doing detectors. If you put all the screws in, right, I'll put this back up. If you put all the screws into a detector after you've worked on it, right, and turn it on, 9 times out of 10 it won't work. That's Murphy's Law. No, not all the time, but there has been cases where you do something on the detector, you have it on the bench, you haven't put the screws in, and you turn it on and it works beautifully. And you put it all together, it doesn't work. Something's pinched or fallen off, or in cases of the older detectors, like the old work hardened copper wires, they just break when you put it back together. It just pushes it and goes snap, falls off. I wish I had $1 for every SD-2000 that I pulled apart, put back together, and it didn't work afterwards because the damn wires fall off. It could be anything on those. Power wires mainly are the ones that fall off, and in some cases the copper breaks up the cable, and you don't even know, and it's just sitting there hanging by the rubber on the outside of the cable, and you just touch it and it slides off. I've also found that on coil connectors as well. This is quite funny. It doesn't happen as much now as what it used to, but on the GPs, we used to have it, and people would say, "Oh, it's intermittent," and you go, "Oh, yeah, okay. What's it doing?" It screams and then it behaves, and then it screams again and behaves. So what you do is you go and open up the. This also happens on GPXs. You cut the heat shrink tubing off the coil wires, and there's always one that was loose. It was soldered, but it wasn't soldered together. It was all tinned up nicely, and they just didn't put the iron on it for long enough, and it's sitting there, and it's been held there by the heat shrink tubing, and it's kept it going. And then after a while, the solder starts oxidizing, and it starts making and breaking, and gets worse and worse, of course, until it completely fails. But the way to tell, if you ever have an intermittent detector out in the field, grab the coil wires inside the box and give them all a tug, and occasionally one will come out and just leave the heat shrink there. So yeah, found a few of those. I found a few interesting things in these detectors over the years. But yeah, but anyway, I'll put this one back together, and yeah, I'll this one works really well actually. I should have done a bench test comparing the other, but I'd rather do a field test. Too many inside testing, doesn't really tell 100% of the story. It'll show you functionality on depth and stuff like that, but it's not going to tell you anything in the way it handles ground, or its ability to get in there, or its ability to ground balance. But yeah, it was this one in here was detecting a lot further than the standard, and it was a hell of a lot less noisy on the same settings. That was a real eye opener, that was. And this has got my third iteration of boards in it. So this is a newer one and a different one compared to what I tested last time. But this one has got a lot less noise. Okay, well, I've got all those screws in, and we saved our warranty sticker. See, it's still in warranty. Not really, but it's probably out of warranty anyway. But you know, this thing here sits over the warranty sticker, goes around that way. You can just put a tab of glue on it to keep it there. It'll probably stay there anyway. And yeah, stick a couple more screws in. Just line one up there and there. And also I've got to put one in under the sticker, but as it's loose I can do that. There. So that's on, and under the sticker, I've already done it. Too busy talking and not taking any notice of what I was doing, but it's on. So that's your warranty sticker, still there. Yeah, I was going to nip these to here, and someone's just sent me a message. Someone sells something or other. It'll be on YouTube on a previous video. So the rest of that, you know, bit of nice silicone on the slidey surfaces. Yeah, check that. There's no cracks in it or anything. But I would expect, you know, if you're brutal with this and you're changing coils all the time and mucking around, I don't know how long that would last. You know, it's fairly thick plastic, but you know, I know what happens when you bend plastic. You know, plastic tabs on, you know, things like, you know, anything that has batteries in it or whatever, eventually breaks off. Anyway, next video will be these out in the field. I'll probably just run up to Sparrow Ground because it's a bit of sunlight today. It's 2 o'clock and in the afternoon, so it'll give me time to run out there and do some field tests. Anyway, catches.